I'm interested in a couple of stories, and the story that is the I've been of the last 24 hours is yet again, one of those shock horror stories about. Well, it's the little boy who cried wolf, Chicken Little. Well, any other analogy that we learnt as a child, but it's civil defence and this extraordinary stuff up again. Snafus, isn't that what they're called? That was the polite term, isn't it? Snafus. That civil defence throughout this country have been involved in with the tsunami. What, roughly 48 hours ago, we woke up to the fact that there'd been a massive earthquake in Russia or off the Russian coast somewhere. I think the sixth worst or the sixth highest register this century. So it was significant. And as a consequence of that, the whole of the Pacific went on tsunami alert. Within hours of that alert flashing through, in fact, probably by the time that I'd had breakfast, it was becoming clear and obvious that it wasn't, just because of the nature of the quake under the sea, wasn't as bad as everybody feared, but not in New Zealand. All right, so we decided it was still going to be a catastrophic or potentially catastrophic event. And so an alert went out, and we've talked about that yesterday, I think it was. Is it yesterday? Yes. Was it yesterday or the Wednesday, Josh? Gosh, days are all merging now.
No, yesterday.
Sorry?
Was it yesterday? Yeah.
It was yesterday. Thank you for that, because a lot's happened the last 24 hours in my life. Not bad, but just a lot happened. And there were a whole series of us. Well, I wasn't. I was one of the lucky ones who didn't get plagued at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and told, incessantly I might add, plagued, that there was some great catastrophe about to happen to you. And even long after it was obvious that there wasn't one, people were still receiving those text messages. Then there were others who got no text message at all. And as I explained, I didn't expect to get one in Cromwell because we are the town that is furthest from the sea in New Zealand. So, Josh, all I can say is the day we get a tsunami alert, your stuff, mate.
Yeah, well, we'll be washed away already by the time
you're gone. Yeah. You should have headed to Ruapehu a long time ago. Anyhow, there you go. All right, but civil defence. So and so these alerts go out, and obviously I, like many other people, are following the news. I'm not following New Zealand news. I'm looking at BBC and the New York Times and the Sydney Morning Herald and the Australian and a whole series of other sort of more Pacific-aligned newspapers, including the Japanese version of Shimbun. And I'm going, what's the story, And so I was able to, as of yesterday, make the decision that this isn't going to be a problem. And I wasn't alone. I know. Isn't it amazing? Lots of other people were doing that. How serious is this going to be? At the same time as those civil defence alerts were going, a group of workers, Auckland Council contractors, went to work. In their high-vis jackets yesterday, the workers started mowing the lawn in St Heliers. So St Heliers is rather pleasant, along with Kohimarama, two very nice, very upmarket suburbs on the beaches across from Rangitoto Island, where rather rich people and rather wealthy cafes and the like are. Anyhow, these Auckland City Council contractors started mowing the lawn at St Heliers yesterday morning. Civil Defence Director has blasted these workers for their complacency, despite what Civil Defence Director John Price told the New Zealand Herald yesterday morning, that these workers could have put first responders at risk by continuing to work. The word I used before, he said, is complacency. This is not the actions that we should be doing, mowing the lawn. I'm sure they've got a really good reason for it. They were getting paid. But the key reason is that we want New Zealanders to be safe. And he blasted these St Heliers lawn mowers for having the temerity to work when, dear God, they've put out a tsunami alert. Yes, no water, no beaches until midday, they'd said. Yes, but wait on. By early yesterday morning, most of New Zealand, including me, knew that, yes, there might be a tidal surge or two, but it wasn't likely to be in life endangering. It might endanger some unmoored or poorly moored yachts somewhere in some marina, but it wasn't going to kill us, and that there wasn't some tsunami sweeping through the South Pacific, as it had done with the Boxing Day tsunami that caused so much problems in obviously Indonesia and in Sri Lanka. It wasn't one of those. Um, and now we've seen that sort of small, tiny ripple of the tsunami just sort of wash very gently through the marinas of New Zealand as a consequence. We're all sitting here going, civil defence, you said. Now the argument will be, well, it could have been. Yeah, but you knew it wasn't, your wankers, just quietly. You knew it wasn't. And certainly by the time you'd blasted the St Heliers mowing contractors for, doing their job and getting paid for it, because that's how they work, the rest of New Zealand knew that there was no disaster imminent either. Why would the tsunami, which had gone through all of the Pacific and through a range of other countries and not caused a problem, suddenly get here and be some form of gargantuan monster? I would have... Listen, I don't know if those high-vis jacket lawn mowers had listened to the news or switched on to the internet, which obviously civil defence don't want you to do, because they'd much rather scare the crap out of you at 3 o'clock in the morning with an alert that they don't need, and even after it's passed, alert you again. Can I just say to Civil Defence Director John Price, you're the problem. Not the high-vis workers, you and your mates, who keep on saying, woof, 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 and when the woof never arrives, we don't take you seriously. I imagine those high-vis workers have had good experience of civil defence, emergency and tsunami warnings in the past and gone, oh God, another one. So, you should look to yourself, can I just say, Civil Defence Director John Price. Leave the workers alone and get your bloody science right. Oh, and your technology, so you're not irritating the crap out of us all the time as well. Yet another failure from civil defence in this country, who either aren't there and are asleep when there is a disaster, a la Cyclone Gabrielle, or alternatively tell you that there's a disaster on the way, get very miffy about it, and, oh gosh, there's a little ripple added to the other little ripples coming through eastern beaches at the moment. All right, all I can say to you high-vis mowing contractors, you're my heroes of the week. Good on you, mate. Would have done the same. Thank you very much.